Well, let's go ahead and get picks and bans ready here for Game 2. Obey Alliance have got to find a way to bounce back after a tough Game 1 loss over to Team Dignitas. And where do you want to see them try and make some adjustments? Because remember, I mean, they may go with this Nike pick. It's their second to last pick. Then they go into the Mercury. Did they get enough out of this Nike? Is that really something we can blame for this?
The Nike is replaceable, I feel, but it served its purpose throughout that match up until the Fire Giant. I think that Obey looked great in a lot of those team fights, even the ones where they didn't necessarily come out purely on top, but it was still close enough to where Dignitas couldn't really do anything afterwards either. And I think that stalemating a team fight is still a strong enough sentiment to go for that Obey could probably repeat that draft, and I would have no issues with it.
But I mean, it really felt like they were so reliant on Xaliea for control in those fights because of the Nike. I mean, is it because of the Nike, or is it because they were playing around the Dignitas draft so well, or the Obey draft so well? I mean, we'll see if they try and go something different.
It felt like Xaliea was oftentimes a little bit later towards those team fights in comparison to Variety, who I think was constantly there with Dignitas before everything even broke out. It was evident that Dignitas wanted to be the aggressors first and foremost, and then we'd normally see Xaliea trickle in afterwards once things had fallen apart a little bit more so. And I really liked the way that iRaffer was able to utilize that huge slow. I think it even deterred Variety a couple of times from going for the Fatal Strike execution, because he would see that massive boon of health and not want to go in, despite the fact that he still could have confirmed it.
I think he got first blood too, didn't he, to get everything started off? So, I mean, iRaffer had a good start. They just couldn't carry it all the way through as the picks and bans are underway. Sobek, Anhur, a duo lane of old between those two, huh? It feels like a classic combo to pluck back into the Anhur Impale. Meanwhile, Obey are doing the Artemis Cerberus Thoth combination, so they are going to go back to the Cerberus they had last game, and now they're going to pair that with the Thoth.
And, well, it doesn't seem like Obey were all that concerned about the Achilles, because they let him through yet again.
They did,
It's about the Giannis, and I think that Giannis is also a pick you can't afford to let Zyrhoes repeat, because giving it up one time was bad enough, and Obey not willing to take that chance the second time around. I mean, this is their set life on the line here. It's either you make it go for a third game of Smite, or it's just over.
And this is, we were talking about Obey's chance to kind of make it a square, right? To break into that top three in a real way, because they kind of had already taken games off Energy, and Rival and Dignitas have been trading. So they've got to make sure they can get this win, get to that game 3, and try and even it out if they're at the top.
This is very off topic, but I feel like we need to come up with like a better shape than the square. I regret having ever said that. What about like rhombus?
I mean, a rhombus is a square?
I mean, it's 4 sides, technically.
Or square is a rhombus.
It's
something like that.
It's like that awkward diamond shape, you know, the one that's like kind of fallen on its side, and it's like, help, I can't get up.
Are you making fun of shapes now? You saying rhombuses can't stand up? Taco kind of giving rhombuses a hard time here, and Dignitas trying to give him a hard time with this Unbots pick. That was one we didn't even get to talk about. QvoFred was so disruptive with this in Game 1. Every time it felt like Dignitas was starting to get a flow or trying to win the team fight, QvoFred was using the Fear No Evil either defensively or to spread out the fight. Played very well on it.
I like the Humbats. Like I said, I think that the defensive ultimates earlier on were kind of a necessity, since Obey's composition probably did favor the early a little bit more so, and even transitioning over towards that mid-game stride, I still think that Quvo was getting focused quite a lot, because Obey were seriously trying to position to prevent him, or just spamming him just to make sure he couldn't get his blink initiation in.
Right.
And I think that's also something that's very important to consider too, is that Obey, with the range of the Thoth and the Artemis 3, they might have some possibilities here to prevent that initial aggression from Quvo, at least for the start, but I feel as though Dignitas are going to go super ham on this duo lane.
That looks to be the call here from Dignitas, right? With the Anhur Sobek, that feels like a lane where you want to fight, where Sobek can kind of just walk at you and make you uncomfortable just by standing nearby. And very likely Achilles is going to go right back over to Variety. So I'd be surprised if that was the dual lane that we saw. But I mean, you're seeing both these drafts here. Are you leaning one way or the other just based off these picks?
There's so much damage on Dignitas' draft. I like Obey's composition, but I'm not completely sold on the Geb, because it feels a little bit too passive to match the flavoring of the rest of the team comp. And Dignitas have a really sound composition that's just going to run at you as soon as they all hit level 5.
Well, let's see if that is how it is going to go out into action. Dignitas and Obey Game 2. We're going to let the casters cast it.
And cast it we shall. Anatoly's very excited to be here. How you doing, bud?
You know, pretty good so far. We're seeing some different changes out of Obey Alliance compared to the first game rather. The Artemis this time around, the Thoth is going to be a good late game prowess potential.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch these teams go at it. The second round of bans was so interesting. Season 5, ladies and gentlemen. We ban Chang'e, we ban Aphrodite, we ban Hebo.
Xaliea, man. Xaliea likes the healers in the solo lane.
He always has.
He does indeed, but he's going to be able to pilot his Cerberus yet again as the Geb's locked in for iRaffer instead, going for not a warrior.
So, who do you think is going to win this one? Mixer chat? Not Anatoly. I don't want to hear your answer.
Well, then I guess you don't need me. I guess I'll just, like, walk away.
Yeah, sure. See you later. I got this.
Okay.
No problem. So, as we... Oh, you're actually going to stick around?
Oh, of course. The show cannot continue without me, Thomas.
Let's just get to game, please. Obey Alliance taking on Team Dignitas. You once wore those colors, didn't you?
Black and yellow, man. When we were in North America, early to mid 2014, until about that late 2015 or early 2015. Yeah. So about a year and a half.
Even before that, I mean, that Team Dignitas was. I was still just a content creator fan at that time, and that was one of the first teams that really sort of made a legacy, I think. It was you, Zapman, Lazes, Dare to Care, rotating jungler, essentially, the best, right?
Shadow Q and the best were the two original members, and then, Dare to Care joined eventually, Naw joined eventually.
Yeah, that's who it was. It was Zap and Shadow Q in the long lane, Lass in the jungle, mid lane of everybody else. And that team really kind of landed for me, and I think the next legacy we saw was that Energy Squad. You know, that was really interesting. And here, I bring that up because here, this is where we see iRaffer actually deviating for the first time since those days.
I mean, the Legacy Squad, how could you forget CaptainTwig? Making a real impact in Season 1 to deny both Ataraxia and Twig the opportunity to win Season 1 Worlds.
What I think it comes down to is the longevity. I felt like Season 0, as we call it, right, before the Pro League came out, it was your team that was really the clear squad that was making moves. And then CaptainTwig dominated for a year, but just kind of that year. Moving on, it was all Energy,
That's true.
Panthera, whatever you call them, that team was the one that was crushing it, right? And so we're here in E United won the World Championship, and here I feel like we're waiting for the next big dynasty. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm waiting here for. Will it be Obey with the old Energy support? Will it be this Team Dignitas that has tried so hard? They've stuck together past the year, but have yet to find the land win. QvoFred stunned out, but will be able to wiggle away out of there.
PrettyPriMe with a nice range from the Thoth, and you talk about dynasties and legacies, and my best guess of that next one is going to be Rival.
Yeah, Rival have certainly done it. They've worked their way up. They've they just barely lost at Worlds, and they come through in the spring split and win pretty dominantly against this Team Dignitas squad, who had some trouble in the later stages.
They just seem to falter when it matters the most, but they're just such an absolute beast in the other lands and the other splits, winning Valencia in the summer, coming very close in the Season 4 spring as they lost to Obey Alliance to start things off in Season 4, and just not finding the victories when it really mattered in Super Regionals.
Variety here, Achilles and the three-headed doggo. I asked you before about this matchup, and you said very succinctly, well, they're both going to do a zillion damage to each other. But Xaliea will do it a little bit later. Variety will do it a little bit sooner. And then as they transition to the late game away from the laning phase, we certainly saw what happens.
Same exact matchup as last game. Xaliea just waiting for the cooldowns. He has 20 physical protections to survive the early onslaught that Variety's trying to get the damage for the executes, but Xaliea used to that kind of aggression. When you play Guardians and healers in the solo lane, you can really use the opponent's weight against them at times, bait them in awkward situations. That's what Obey did in the first game, but just gave up too much in response when that Gold Fury was stripped away from them.
Yeah, really clean stuff there, and Dignitas wind up looking strong because of it. And as I said earlier, this is not a surprise. Dignitas do well online almost every single split, but when they go against Tough, the Tough get going in the bad way. They just leave. They get going out of the door. They don't get going towards the finish line. They get going in the bad way. And iRaffer going to be got. here. Blocked out, but Sprint will help him out just a little bit. Body blocking for Ataraxia, even despite the low HP. CaptainTwig coming through the entrance, but he does have a jungler way above him. Doesn't go for it. CaptainTwig opts not to go for the gank. The Party Monkey's on the purple buff. I know that, Tully, but that seems ludicrous. Break down why we do not see the jungler
honestly,
enter the situation.
I can't give you that answer because there was no vision from Obey to identify where QvoFred was, considering how far Arkkyl and Trixtank was in the duel lane. That was prime real estate gank opportunity. Shell was traded for Sprint, so don't have to worry about the escape factor.
Right.
Trixtank and Arkkyl not level 5. You know, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Maybe more concerned about losing his own speed buff without knowing where QvoFred was.
Could be a concern of lack of damage as well. Trixtank and Arkkyl very much pushed up. Both of them have abilities to sort of get out of the way. Arkkyl with the jump, Trixtank with a little charge of prey. And iRaffer going to do minimal damage. Of course, he was very low, right?
He's there for the shield. He's not going to be anywhere near the action with how low his health was. Ataraxia not wanting to get in the thick of things without his boar. So
right.
It would have been mostly all CaptainTwig in that 1v2 with a little assistance from Ataraxia.
Right now it's the 2v2 on the right side of the map as Team Dignitas start to get antsy and look towards the enemy's blue buff. CaptainTwig losing a lot of his HP. Jinx to just the basics. Ataraxia loses half of his life bar, but a nice response coming out from his Guardian there to stun out 2 players. Here comes Raijin.
Oh.
The drum solo puts CaptainTwig in a box. And PrettyPriMe winding up, but will not deliver. Team Dignitas looking strong here. First blood for the black and yellow.
That's the one problem for PrettyPriMe stuff is that he can't channel that ultimate without being disrupted. A clean pick off with that drums, having a lot of range in its own right. But one disadvantage with Zyrhoes' Raijin for that ultimate is the mobility that you lose while you use it.
It's one of the big things that you look for, mainly out of gods like Thoth, is the fact that you're just not able to move. You said it's slowed down. I think it's a...
Well, Thoth is you can get disrupted, and Raijin is the movement speed penalty.
No, that's what I'm saying is that Raijin, he's very low on the movement speed when he goes in that ultimate, which means gods like Thoth are they're able to sit there, wind up, and fire the ultimate. Back when he was a little bit more popular, the go-to choice against Raijin was Vulcan.
That's true.
Because you would just go, all right, dude, you're in the ultimate. You're a sitting target. I'm just going to launch my ult. Thoth can do very much the same thing and sort of punish Raijin for going into that ult. And the answer for Zyrhoes there is to use the crowd control options against the Thoth.
That's why you do sacrifice a little bit of damage.
A ton, really.
You lose 30% damage for either the taunt or the fear, but that 20% slow is not only for PrettyPriMe to be able to hit, but also that late game Artemis that could be in position with a crit. So, needing to keep that in mind is Dignitas and having to figure out anti-crit options or maybe anti-attack speed options.
Or what what Raijin does really well. Just kill him. You do 0 DPS while dead. And Raijin with the first item, Soul Reaver, certainly looking to be the guy that's just shutting the lights off.
We saw that in North America, I believe it was yesterday, Space Station Gaming against Luminosity, where Baskin putting on a show against Geeks made Rapper, getting plucked into 3 members, uses the shell, uses a shield, not enough.
Zyrhoes one more time finds himself above an enemy player as far as the kills are concerned. CaptainTwig barely going to get on out of there. PrettyPriMe chewing down on Quvo, but unable to chase into the jungle.
So I was referencing that North American matchup because this is exactly what Geeks made build against Baskin's Scylla. And he got heavily punished for not having the health pool. But the way Dignitas is able to aggress early, there's not that much pressure onto this Raijin, and there's no momentum under PrettyPriMe's belt. So this Soul Reaver Glass Cannon build out of Dignitas' mid laner is seeming to work out thus far.
I mean, most of the mage builds are glass cannon. The only one I would say is not is the Warlock Staff.
Warlock Staff, you could even go Book of the Dead. A little outdated, but who knows what's to come in the future.
Arkkyl jumping forward. iRaffer tried to read it, but gets caught out anyway. CaptainTwig immuning the knockback, and there's the ultimate from Arkkyl. Here comes Friends. QvoFred does not have the ultimate available. Raxia from the top side forces the jump.
Oh, the boar actually follows through. QvoFred needs to run away from CaptainTwig. Not able to do so. Neither can Zyrhoes. Ataraxia cleaning up the mid-mage with 2 kills on the board for Obey Alliance. They don't go for the Gold Fury because iRaffer is chasing out Arkkyl instead.
I love the communication from Obey right there as well.
Raffer, what are you doing?
I love how Arkkyl just immediately, he's like, come on, bro. He doesn't even look at him. He just immediately presses the back button a second time. That's all fun in games, folks. But actually, Raffer keeping the Hunter away is actually a really big deal because Ataraxia gets to farm this wave very quickly and then make it to the red buff invade in time, and Arkkyl's not going to have that chance.
That's true. Stripping away more minions before the enters the tower line, trying to figure out their own red buff. Did Dignitas secure their own?
No, I believe Obey grabbed that one. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Now I see the marker. But yeah, that's a great look to be able to shut down this Anhur that has that mid-game pressure. Ataraxia pretty comfortable in the early laning phase as the Artemis trying to transition into that late game. The crits, the attack speed is going to be a problem. And if Dignitas don't itemize against Ataraxia, he can easily pop off.
Yeah, there was interesting response there to go ahead and freeze the wave. We used to not really see that approach, and every time I asked Hunters, excuse me, the red buff will be secured one more time. This again goes to Obey.
The stun onto QvoFred. Again, you cannot leave your back turn in the mid lane. The amount of distance that the Thoth can cover between that wall dash combination is so great. Xaliea not able to secure his own blue buff, but level 10 Cerberus, you got 30% cooldown reduction, you got breastplate, MP5 sustain. You're not really too worried about that at the end of the day.
So I think it's a result of the map getting larger, Anatoly, but in seasons past, we did not see Hunters look to strip the wave as often. It was frequently just kill the wave really quickly and run into the jungle to find other stuff. Now we're seeing more Hunters opt to freeze the wave, which of course means that the enemy minions die, or excuse me, your own minions die, so your enemy has less stuff to, literally less stuff to farm. Why do we see more of that response?
Well, in this particular case, it was because Ataraxia needed to finish off Ninja Tabai completely. He also needed like the extra gold per second, potentially, to help him get to that little power spike play. And that also is not a bad idea to deny some experience, because Arkkyl could easily be the level 11 marker as he's able to get his own buffs on a regular basis. So any sort of experience gap, you can separate yourself from that level 12 race of the second relic Aegis, is going to put your team in a position where, like, all right, do we now go for a team fight and look for the Gold Fury or not?
Right now, teams just looking for each other. 3 players grouped up for Obey in the middle lane. Trixtank going to toss Raffer up, and QvoFred jumps from out of nowhere. And Raffer just barely going to be taken out by Trixtank lurking in the waters. CaptainTwig getting ulted by the Raijin, getting ulted by everybody else.
Oh, no.
QvoFred finding one up top, Variety finding one on the bottom. 3 players going to be taken out by Obey Alliance. The only ones left, the side laners, and Dignitas looking for gold.
Raffer a little too far forward there by that intersection. All red wards out of Dignitas at the left side. Mid-Harpies, Variety looking for the execute. It doesn't matter because QvoFred with the last hit. Xaliea, the last Obey member standing, finally finds one in response, but it's an unofficial D-side. Raffer needs to defend this Gold Fury.
Yeah, QvoFred down for 30 seconds. CaptainTwig and Raffer, the only ones alive, but I don't think either of them could get to the objective, even if they tried. Notice Raffer just going into the enemy jungle and looking for those experience camps.
Sometimes, I mean, if he's going to invest his time to stop Arkkyl from backing between the tier 2 and the Phoenix in the dual lane, sure, why not? Strip away the back camps on the right side. He did it in the last game with the Nike. When he escaped combat, he did invade those back left camps. So doing the same thing on the flip side as the Geb.
On the Geb. On the Geb. Soul Gem. Very early purchase for Zyrhoes here. Interesting choice.
It's the burst damage. You get extra true damage from the Soul Reaver, and then you get a little bit of the extra power out of the Soul Gem. A little bit of extra sustain on top of it is never a bad idea, and that's what you're really looking for out of Raijin that has the Raiju Percussive Storm combination, or the Raiju and the Taiko drums instead.
Yeah, it's a big old tooltip there for Soul Gem, essentially. Every 4 abilities, your 4th one goes crazy.
It's like a magical Heartseeker version, if you will.
I see that. I see that. I definitely see that. Only 65 power, though. Will that impact his game elsewhere?
Not too much, considering Dignitas is so far ahead right now. Normally, if you're looking for the best optimal power spike play, Soul Gem should be coming a little bit later in the game than now. Normally, Chronos Pendant wouldn't be a bad idea towards being more optimal with your cooldowns. But honestly, with the way that Dignitas has been positioning themselves, there's so much freedom for Zyrhoes to do whatever he wants, and Percussive Storm is such a short cooldown anyway, you don't necessarily need the Chronos Pendant. You're able to get off more damage and just a little sustain in the backline with Arkkyl.
Speaking of which, lack of sustain on the front line is iRaffer gonna find himself 1 HP. Make that 0. QvoFred puts number 8 on the board for Team Dignitas. Meanwhile, Zero surrounded, but he doesn't seem to mind. Big ultimate coming out from Xaliea, but it's not enough. Zero's Aegis out, gonna get jumped on, but he finds the exit on the left-hand side.
Ataraxia goes right instead of left where Zyrhoes was. PrettyPriMe is gonna fall victim to Variety under his own tier 2 tower. Xaliea and Ataraxia trying to avenge his fallen mid laner. The jump not on the mark. Variety buying time behind the backhams because here comes QvoFred.
Oh, what perfect play. Variety goes right back in. I don't know about that one, big boy. But Variety does watch as Ataraxia falls right after the fact. QvoFred comes down, joins the party. You've got help additionally from the left-hand side. I don't know. Team Dignitas almost got out of there.
Almost. It's close in, what do you say, horseshoes and hand grenades, but Variety sacrificing his life for Ataraxia is always the good idea, considering it's one of those mid-game to late-game hunters that can burn objectives very quickly. If Obey Alliance win that fight on the right side of the map, maybe they go for Pyro.
Yeah, it's very possible. Certainly a couple of different options there available to the winning team. Right now, Team Dignitas can be the winning team on the scoreboard. 6,000 gold in the lead so far, so Dignitas certainly looking strong. 5,300 to be more precise, excuse me. Look at that player damage coming out of Variety, though. Sure, sometimes you negate some of the riffraff because of what the solo laners wind up doing, but his 3,000 damage above his direct opposition.
That's true. He's able to find the execute and dive the tier 2 towers almost effortlessly, even rushing for this Bulwark of Hope just to get extra defenses or the extra health bubble whenever he does get hit by PrettyPriMe, which will certainly put him under that threshold.
Watching this one, we're going to take a brief pause in the action. PrettyPriMe taking a step away real quick. We'll figure out what's going on and get right back into it very, very soon. But PrettyPriMe and his team, Obey, have not been successful this afternoon.
Fortunately not. Variety has been an absolute monster in game number 1, getting that MVP status. I think that Obey Alliance mentally is a little bit drained after losing that first game. It took a little while for them to find their footing was Dignitas after that Fire Giant steal, and that hits you really to heart when you go for the Fire Giant. You make the correct call, and it still doesn't come up your way.
Yeah, that one was really rough because I initially had disagreed, but I think Tolly really illustrated the scenario correctly, and I wound up, yes, I think that was the right call at the right time with the right lead and the right moment, and what did I say? The coin flip didn't go in their favor.
Not at all.
And just goes all Dignitas' way, and they wound up winning the game off of that. That one's got to be really rough. I have never been in that player position, at least not with Smite, but totally, I mean, you've been there, right?
You were able to kind of shake that off. You know what you did wrong. You kind of talk about it a little bit, make sure everyone's on the same page as you approach the next game. Make sure that, like, yes, I messed up. I know about it. Let's move on. We'll try the same exact play next time. Yeah. This is not going to stop Obey Alliance from making those kind of plays 5-on-4 in the future.
That's the key point right there, and I mentioned it during the broadcast as well. I mean, a player like basically what wound up happening was PrettyPriMe ulted the Fire Giant when there was still 1 HP left, and that's one of those where he hits them 99% of the time outside of that scenario. So unfortunately, not going to be the case. Getting right back into the game though. Mid lane is where we will be focused. And Team Dignitas, still with their lead, about 6,000 of it, will be heading into the right side, looking for that Pyromancer.
They're really abusing Obey before the late game Artemis or Thoth becomes an issue. 3-level lead for Zyrhoes, 1 level lead for Arkkyl. That's finished the Crusher, still stacking his Devo gloves.
Which has been really fun to watch these teams adapt to the different metas. CaptainTwig jumps right into the clutches of Zyrhoes, but Zyrhoes kept at bay by PrettyPriMe and a little bit of help from his friends. We watched the hunters be ignored, and then it became all about late game hunters, and then it became about enabling those late game hunters with the healers Ataraxia going to be bursted down. There's a Gem Shield to help him out. Backside, Dignitas. QvoFred gets one with a totem. iRaffer is going to be next, but he finds the ultimate and stuns two different players. Shells enough to keep them at bay. And Team Dignitas surprise the enemy hunter with a kill of their own. And that goes directly to where we're talking, is that the response to this healing meta has been, well, ban the healers first and foremost, but also just beat them before the healing comes online. And I think teams have noticed that even when not fighting healers, it's nice to go hyper fast.
That's true. You got to go fast in any game that you play. And in this game, not going fast is Ataraxia. He's dead.
I mean,
the judgment from getting that tier 1 tower in the dual lane, not worth it whatsoever. He was about to get soloed, honestly. Yes. Completely soloed. Arkkyl responds to the boar by using the ultimate, jumps to cut the distance, and that's the problem with Artemis. She just doesn't have that gap closing ability, and still, with that one pick, Team Dignitas make their own 5-on-4 play, getting the second goal fury of the game.
Wonderful stuff there. Meanwhile, Omega to blink on top of Team Dignitas.
Good peel. Clean. Zyrhoes needed to disengage that one, had to use the beads, but the blink from CaptainTwig means that they can breathe a little easier knowing that that's not going to be up for another 105 seconds.
Dig going to be picking up their own red buff. Good for them. Obey has been invading that pretty frequently, so taking the red buff of their own will be a nice look.
7,000 goalie at 18.5 minutes. This is no, I'm sorry, 7.5. No slouch is Dignitas in terms of building off of their lead. Over 5 digits in the experience department has made this game look a little silly for Obey.
Well, and again, I mean, that's directly into not only the picks, but the itemization as well. Soul Reaver and Soul Gem are items that amplify your damage now.
Yes.
Right? Soul Gem is only 65 power. Theoretically, in the late game, you're losing damage. But by going the Soul Gem this early, you're enabling yourself to just get that burst, right? We're looking at Crusher on Anhur. This is a mid-game build. This is a team that wants to win early. They want to go and find the win quickly. And I mean, Dignitas right now, they're playing fast. They're playing so fast. They're playing so fast, they make other teams look not fast.
Not fast at all, but Trixtank fast enough to pluck himself away from that one, trying to defend his Sentry Ward for as long as possible. Dignitas with a 2-on-1 against Xaliea, bullies him away from the tier 1 solo tower. Additional 500 gold for the black and yellow squad. 20 minutes in, 12-4. Obey need to find a way back in this game, but they're about to get collapsed on in the solo lane.
Yeah, 2 players versus 4 here. Dignitas still going to give them their respect. Look for the blue buff. I have to admit, folks, I'm very sorry. That excellent line was an Anatolianism. I'm sorry for taking your Tolianism.
Oh, you're good. I got it from the longest yard.
Did you oh, I had no idea. iRaffer right now, a couple yards away from safety. Arkkyl going to chase him down with the ultimate and the in-hands. But iRaffer will be safe and sound under left side. Right side, CaptainTwig's going to be there, but everybody's split up, and Team Dignitas grouped. Variety won't find the execute with the ultimate, but here comes Zyrhoes, and they're going to take care of Xaliea nice and clean.
The Gem Shield not enough to save Xaliea. Xaliea sacrificed himself with the Stygian Torment to make sure PrettyPriMe lived another day, but with this Fire Giant still up, it's a 5-on-4 for 35 seconds. Dignitas back in the base to get a little bit healthy, and they can probably just burn this outright. As long as they know that PrettyPriMe is not within vicinity, they know that his final judgment was used in that last skirmish.
Right now, certainly something to be paying attention to, because that final judgment going to be a very big part of what can or cannot secure the Fire Giant. With that said, I think it'd be a little bit of poetic justice if PrettyPriMe was able to confirm this one. CaptainTwig jumps in the middle of 4 players and just haphazardly falls to the wayside. Variety here zoning, but Primer on the back end.
He has it.
Too early.
Does he have vision, though?
He doesn't have vision.
No.
Too soon, Executus. PrettyPriMe, again, way too early. Flipped up and shut down. Zyrhoes gets the last hit on the mid lane mage. The Fire Giant doesn't even go to Team Dignitas for what it's worth.
They buy time to prevent that from occurring, but I think that they're going to go for round 2 because now it's CaptainTwig and PrettyPriMe still dead for another 15 and 30 seconds respectively. Plenty of a window, but Ataraxia not backing yet. He needs desperately this 1,500 gold for his teammates.
Really want to give a shout out to Team Dignitas and their ward vision. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wards off offensively by the Fire Giant. Don't forget, each player can only place 2.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're getting the whole team involved, communication there, and a lot of them are sentries as well, which you can only carry 1 of. This was a team ward decision, and it allowed themselves to make the intelligent choice of backing off of the Fire Giant, killing PrettyPriMe, and now finding a more opportune moment where there's nobody to play defense.
Xaliea needs to get away. His jump was already used. Defensive Batz ultimate. Sorry, aggressive from QvoFred, cutting out the escape. Xalia's dead, and Variety blinks in, forces out the boar from Ataraxia. Defensively, I think this tier 2 tower in middle is about to get pressure. Left side, though,
Split push Geb. Split push Geb. Split push Geb. Split push Geb. Geb number 1.
He got it.
Geb number... Oh, he's going for the Phoenix. Split push Geb going for the Phoenix.
No,
I'm just kidding. He's got a back to base to protect his own Phoenix. Kind of a interesting choice there to send Geb out split pushing. CaptainTwig again just jumps in the middle of everybody, even with the damage mitigation from the ultimate Totally not good enough.
The pluck actually still did 80, or the follow-up after the pluck while he was in air takes about 80% of his health bar. The accuracy from Dignitas to focus the same target, the hard switch from the Phoenix onto CaptainTwig, trying to be a distraction, was not a distraction long enough.
Yeah, clean stuff from Team Dignitas. And, you know, it's interesting because I think this is an Obey team that is much better than they used to be. And I think that's still true in this game. But Team Dignitas just tightening things up over the course of the last couple of weeks.
So far, Obey's doing a good job after week 1 performance. They 2-0'd Energy. No easy task whatsoever. 2-1ing SK, you know, still undefeated. But this game, it's looking like this could be their first loss in the split.
Very interesting to see QvoFred go last item, what is undoubtedly going to be a Deathbringer. Love the way that this item sort of synergizes with what Batz does, but usually this is the choice that the jungler makes way earlier on. They go, all right, either I can be aggressive or I have to be defensive. But seeing this last item, QvoFred said, all right, I've got my Magi's cloak, but that's it. I'm good, and I want to murder people.
He's going to be able to prevent himself from getting CC'd to high heaven by iRaffer. The Cataclysm, the knockup, you prevent one, you don't have to worry about the other because you have a lot of counterplays immediately after. You can prevent the knockup with your own Fear No Evil and disrupts what iRaffer wants to do. And speaking of what iRaffer wants to do, he gets the Emperor's Armor, trying to increase the attack speed of his Phoenixes for the defensive measures.
Then why is he split pushing? Really didn't like that choice. Now, though, he will be local, and you can see the added effect on the Phoenix. It's going to be amplified by iRaffer's chest piece. CaptainTwig takes a poke over the wall. Team Dignitas at bay. They do not reward over the wall. Bay will do the same.
Team Dignitas are getting away with anti-crit. Hold that thought, though. Hide Enemy line was picked up by Variety, but I meant like no Thorns, no more Guardian Mail to prevent the attack speed for Ataraxia. The range from Zyrhoes is long enough with the pressure from Variety to keep Ataraxia distracted from being this late game Artemis that he really needs. The rage, not even with a single stack.
And I think the goal for Team Dignitas is to win before that Artemis becomes a big problem.
And the Thoth.
Yeah, I mean, very, very obviously not concerned here about the late game nonsense because they want to end the game before we get to the hyper late game. Team Dignitas making their move on the left-hand side, 80% on the bird. Solo laner caught up. QvoFred looking for the turnaround. The 1v1 is good. Arkkyl gets one in traffic as well. Obey Alliance, 3 players strong to play D. Left side Phoenix goes down. Mid lane Phoenix already toast. And oh baby, Team Dignitas coming right into the throne room. Half on the Titan, still fighting through. Playing defense is PrettyPriMe, trying to do what he might. But try is all that he's got. Team Dignitas in 2 games very quickly topple Obey Alliance.
That left side Phoenix Siege, Xalia's blink got disrupted. He tried to blink Stygian Torment, but he got hit by something and prevents the successful defense. Great play from QvoFred, isolating CaptainTwig in the 1v1, forcing the bees. The accuracy to hit the monkey toss allowed him to win that one and win the second game.
That was what Team Dignitas does, plain and simple. If you're newer to the league, Team Dignitas historically have gotten wins based on the fact that they are just going to play better Smite than you. And then a lot of times their critics have said that they don't have the team fight, they don't have the communication. This was Team Dignitas just playing better Smite than Obey Alliance, except I did see flashes of that communication in a good way, which is very scary for all of Team Dignitas' opposition out there.
A lot of coordination and cohesion between Dignitas. With the vision control that they had around Fire Giant, no one from Obey Alliance was destined to steal away the Fire Giant. Without any vision, PrettyPriMe went for a Hail Mary play behind the Fire Giant, came up empty. Which,
again, I think there are armchair coaches out there that are going to lament the fact that he did that. And again, totally, I think that was the right choice. You just got to go for it sometimes.
That's true, and going for it was Obey Alliance. Comes up short this week, but still can hold on to their hat, hang it up on the wall, knowing that they did well in week 1. There's still 4 more weeks to go.
Yeah, good Smite just being played here in the Smite Pro League. Let's break it down. It's Finch and Taco.
Dignitas are able to 2-0 here up against Obey, and they look pretty darn good doing it. Finch and Taco here, we're going to be the ones closing everything out for you, and Dignitas closed it out on Obey. I mean, what went so well for them here in this game, Tacos? We're going to show off on y'all again. Fancy graphic.
I think for me, the big thing was just Obey never really seemed like they could get into control. I mean, from the very start, Trixtank was just going pluck after pluck after pluck, a lot of times tending to just focus out iRaffer, kind of forcing Obey Alliance into having to play more defensively and just looking to... Everything was on the responsive side from Obey. They never really had a chance to show what they've got from their composition in terms of just raw initiation. It always felt like they were playing from behind.
And a lot of that for me is QvoFred on this Unbots pick. I mean, he does such a good job with the Fear No Evils being disruptive, and I hear in my ear that it is QvoFred selected as the MVP. So I think you all got that one correct there in the Mixer chat. But he was so disruptive. That's exactly what I wrote down as my note for Game 1, and then I wrote down again for Game 2. He does such a good job not giving any room for Obey to operate.
And see, I wasn't completely convinced on the Humbots pick from Game 1, specifically because of the fact that he was using that Fear No Evil so defensively. It was hard to connect it. But in Game 2, this was definitely a lights-out performance by Qvo, much to what we've come to expect out of this jungler from Dignitas. He has done a fantastic job in terms of creating spacing for Dignitas, especially in those last couple of sieges.
Yeah, I did also want to give some credit to Trixtank, too. He was setting up everything, it felt like, for the squad on that Sobek, right? He was involved in almost all the kills. The plucks were too strong. The tail was setting up for the rest of the squad, too. I mean, Trixtank was everywhere on that Sobek.
And that's the thing, you have to be accurate with Sobek, especially in the support role. I think in solo lane, it's a little bit more forgiving because you're not the raw initiating factor most of the time. You're just like a secondary support to play the front line if necessary, or to just harass the back line. But here, Trixtank definitely helping to make sure that his team looked like superstars.
Well, they did end up looking like superstars in that game. Well, let's go ahead and take a look up at the matchups for the rest of this week. I think it's just Friday, North America, that's waiting for you with E-Unite and Splice. The big boy match, though, Space Station and Trifecta. You can also see the updated results, though, so you can see exactly what went on earlier in the week, like Space Station 2-0ing LG, the Dignitas set that we saw earlier, too. That was pretty big as well.
I'm really excited for that Splice set tomorrow, too. Because between Splice and Trifecta, that was already a really fun one to see because it gives you a gauging factor for where Splice could potentially stand in the current meta and everything. But if they actually manage to topple E-United, that it would be huge.
It's big, and Splice is looking good, better and better the more we get to see of them. So we'll see if Splice can find a victory. You can see Dignitas are now up at the top of those standings in Europe after being able to grab this win. I think whoever it was that had won this would have been up near the top, and this time it is Dignitas. Obey still right there, though. 2-1. They just got to keep it going a little bit longer. They got to be able to break into these top 3.
They're nipping at the heels of Dignitas, but Dignitas still getting to have the final laugh, pretty much, since they're the ones who are still standing strong at the #1 spot in Europe.
And North America starting to look a little bit more competitive. You saw it there when we were looking at their standings. I mean, CLG maybe not quite as strong as they were in spring, and Trifecta and Splice seem ready to move up into that spot. LG have shown some flashes of brilliance. E-United might be able to find your way in there. We'll see. They're still very, very strong, but there might be an opening. I mean, North America feels wide open.
I think this is what always tends to happen, though. As the year goes on and the lands start coming up closer and closer to that World's finish, teams really start to gear up for the big finale, and the summer split feels like Splice's time to shine.
Well, we were talking about all these matches, so we might as well let y'all know when you can expect to see these matches and when they're going to be on. You want to make sure you're catching Esports Weekly first. That's on Monday at 10 a.m. where we go over all the sets, give you our predictions, have a bunch of fun there. And then into the console, that's Mondays at 11. Then you can see SGS, 11 a.m. Tuesdays through Fridays. Smite Minor League is right behind that, Tuesdays through Friday, and then SPL is every weekday, always starting right at 3, unless SML goes real long into it, and we'll start as soon as that's done.
But usually you can almost always expect the SPL to start at 3 o'clock. So make sure you guys are staying tuned in because there's a lot of this Smite action that you're not going to want to miss out on.
Oh, not at all. I mean, it's been crazy already, just the matches that we've seen. And there's going to be a ton more to look forward to. The Summer LAN at the end of this coming in July 25th. I cannot wait for the All-Star event. That'll be August 11th. And then the SWC placement round right into the World Championships. That's all happening in November.
And every single one of these teams is aiming to try and be there. So you can expect the best of the best as far as the performances are concerned towards that fall split territory.
And the only place you need to aim if you want to be there is right here, hi-rezexpo.com. Go grab your ticket, November 16th through 18th. It's just that easy if you are at home to get your spot at HRX. Come see the World Championship, Console World Championship, Paladins, and Paladins Console. That's a ton of action. Plus, since we're at DreamHack, there's a ton of other stuff to see, too. It's a tremendous value you'll be getting. And that's kind of what we do. It feels like we're giving stuff away, Taco. I don't know.
Oh, we're always giving stuff away at hi-rez. That is a guarantee, and it's always a really fun time getting to meet up with some of your friends, make some new friends, or get to meet some of the casters and players that you've always wanted to talk to.
That's right. We'll be there, your players, favorite coaches, some of your community members. I mean, you always want to make sure you're there so we can all hang out. We'll make sure that we have the best possible time as we watch the best of the best battle it out. But, Taco, that's going to do it here for us on Thursday for the SPL. Make sure you check out in the morning for the Global Series, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to keep going right on through the day to the North American SPL at 3 p.m., so check that out as well. And as always, make sure y'all have a good night.